Hello, everybody. It's Kipp Snow here. I'm the director of the Transportation Distribution and Logistics Institute at the Community College of Baltimore County.
Hey, Kipp. I'm Mike Singer, community manager for Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Shipwatchers. We are a local maritime interest group or advocacy group, and we help to promote all things that have to do with the Port of Baltimore. And so we thought we'd do a podcast. We're on episode 6. No, 7? 7? Okay. Episode 7 now.
I thought you were going to say 8 because of my
Yeah, I know.
my errors in writing
This
the episode script today.
Episode 7, and you and I still can't count. How old are we now?
I know, right?
Ridiculous. But so we're across socials all over the place. But a lot of times, especially with the Facebook algorithm and how posts get published and how people see things, things tend to get dropped off, and we just wanted to find another medium, for lack of a better term, on how to get the information out there in a timely manner, in such a way that people will be used to seeing a product, seeing information on a weekly or a timely basis, so that they can look forward to, having updates weekly at basically about the same time, instead of just a bunch of random stuff on Facebook. So here we are. Wanted to say, if you're watching, give us a like, subscribe, hit the bell. Now, at one point, I thought I knew where all this stuff was, but then Kipp and I keep switching places, and I don't know where. But down there somewhere
on the bottom is a button you're supposed to click that
like,
says
a subscribe, and hit the bell. And when you hit the bell, it alerts you to new podcasts when they get published. So let's see. So let's talk about Let's talk about this week in ship spotting or ship watching. So as I mentioned last week, we only have one day this week with no container ships in. So that's cool. So things are really coming up, and the Ever Forever, like I talked about last week, 12,000 TEU capacity was here Tuesday and Wednesday. But the interesting thing is that I heard from a port source that there were no imports. Now, normally, we're on the other side. We import more than we export. But we did have 600 exports to load. And so that meant 3 cranes were in operation. So that's good, because every time they spin up a crane, there's like a couple dozen people that come to work, just to run that crane, just to run one crane. And so now we're talking about, several dozen people getting back to work. So that's cool. I wanted to show you a picture real quick. Oh, go ahead.
While you're pulling the picture up, a little bit on the import and export data on that. The United States right now has a trade deficit, which means that we import more products from other countries than we export to other countries. In essence, we really want to be exporting more than we import, because that means we've got a much stronger economy. People are buying from us more than what we're buying from everybody else. In the Port of Baltimore, we have certain exports that are kind of tailored to our geographical area. We've got a lot of coal coming out of West Virginia that's going out. But don't look at that metric of 600 exports and no imports, especially with the port just kind of getting back into the swing of things. You've got certain ports of call or certain steamship routes that are not back fully in operation yet, but we probably have a backlog of certain type of exports that have just been sitting, maybe not necessarily time sensitive. So they were waiting for those routes to come back online, and so it looks like we've got a lot more exports than imports, when really, in essence, it's kind of that juggling or resetting of the supply chain motions.
Right, right. And I didn't necessarily mean to highlight the imbalance, if you will.
No,
I was
no,
just trying to.
I think it's important to highlight the imbalance because it helps
Mhm.
people to understand what's really going in and out of the port, and that we're not just fully offloading a full ship and then filling it back up. There's a lot of supply
Right,
chain strategies associated with this. So no, I think it's
right.
good information.
Yeah, and people tend to assume that a ship comes in, they unload everything, and then maybe it goes out empty, or it comes in empty and then gets filled up. And, like I said last week, I tend to equate it to like the UPS truck. Maybe not a good analogy, but, the UPS truck stops in a bunch of different places, and so do ships. So they're going to come in and they're going to unload some, an eighth, a quarter of their cargo, but it's probably almost never going to be all. Um,
There's
but
a number of different routing structures, and you're absolutely correct. Some are milk runs where you go out and do you go out on your route and you hit your same stops on a regular basis and you come back in. Some
mhm,
work on hub and spoke models, kind of like how the airline system works, where you've got a hub and the airlines go back and forth into feeder airports. So
right,
there are a lot of different models that the steamship lines use in order to hit those ports of call.
right. And what the only thing I wanted to really highlight is that it's probably less work for our guys at the port. So I just wanted to highlight that. So this looks great. And it's a really big ship, and we're ship watchers, so we're excited about seeing big ships. That's just
Absolutely,
how that's just how we work. But I just wanted to kind of highlight,
sure.
yeah, us ship geeks. I just wanted to highlight that nothing on that ship was coming off for here. So, but let me see. I got another picture here. So that's a really cool shot. Now, do you think this was staged at all? With all the evergreen trucks like right here.
that
That's funny.
or in certain cases they will line one side for some of the marketing and
Yeah, and it
advertising.
does look like they're all waiting to go down the dock so that the crane can
Yeah.
pick up the load and take it out to the
it,
ship.
it also could have been a bulk order where you've got an exporter who is exporting 15 or 20 containers at once, and
Mm-hmm.
it just so happens that those are the containers that were filled and they all kind of look the same, and then there really
Yeah.
isn't a rhyme or reason. It just kind of looks like that.
Right. Um, and then a little bit of trivia. So, the Global Sentinel cable ship, which I don't know if you're familiar. They dock at the Tycho Pier,
Okay.
Port Covington, right next to where the
Mhm.
cruise ships go.
Yep.
That was the first ship to come through the fully open channel.
Oh,
So
okay.
kind of
All right.
kind of bearing the lead here that they opened the channel. That was Monday. How did I not say that first? Well,
I think you got it further on.
I think it's editing.
That's okay.
But here, so hey, let's take. So here's the Global Sentinel coming in on the live stream the other day. So
Nice.
yeah, so it doesn't come in and out a lot, so not many people will get to see it. So I thought I'd pop a shot in there.
You could typically see that ship docked right there at Port Covington. There's usually a
Mhm.
ready reserve fleet. I think the Washington is parked out there right now.
The
Uh,
Washington and the Cape Wrath just came in.
that's
That's
right.
a whole that's a whole nother crazy story. I'll just run through it real quick. McAllister leased a tug from somebody who leased it from Crowley. So they're towing the Cape Wrath up from Norfolk. It came in when the channel was still closed. So it had to go to Norfolk. It was in Europe for weeks or a couple of months. And so now it's finally coming back, and they're towing it, and the towing winch breaks. And so one of the cat there's a tug captain on the bay who calls me every once in a while and gives me some details. And so he said, there's a little dog that keeps it from turning, but it doesn't have the strength. Like the motor wasn't working; it couldn't even pull the cable in.
Hmm. Okay.
And so um, and so they couldn't tow the ship anymore. And as they figured this out, as they're approaching the Bay Bridge, so then they turn around and start to head south because they're like, oh, we can't, right? And then so much of the cable got let out that 3 inches of steel cable is like on the bottom, and now their winch doesn't work, and so they had to call in somebody for help. Well, who did they call in? One of these tugs who's actually lifting the bridge road sections
Hmm.
onto the old span of the Bay Bridge. And
Hmm.
so after they got done a full day of doing bridge work, they had to go help these peeps, and that was yesterday. And then the Cape Wrath finally came in today.
Wow.
So there they are, parked
Side by
kind of
side.
like this on the pier. Yeah, one headed in, one headed out, because they have the same ramp
Hmm.
on the same corner. So
Yep.
they both can't be like this. They've got to be, yeah. Yeah, so that was interesting. So then on to the big channel news. I seem to bury the lead every week in some way. So fully open on Monday. So that was really exciting. And then I just wanted to read some information. So I thought this was really cool. Somebody actually put some numbers together. Thank you to the 1,587 individual responders, fleet of 18 barges, 22 tugboats, 13 floating cranes, 10 excavators, and 4 survey boats for restoring the Fort McHenry Federal Channel back to its original operating dimensions of 700 feet wide and 50 feet deep.
When you sent that to me earlier when we were planning this
Mhm.
episode, I knew that there was a lot of people who were involved with this. I was
Right,
confident, but to
right.
actually see those numbers, to understand the full involvement, it's just so impressive. The amount of effort and the number of people that were involved to try to make this thing go as quickly as possible. It's just impressive.
Yeah, and then
And
when you
and I did say I appreciated the statement of thank you to those. I mean, that was
yes,
that just made the numbers even more impactful.
as I went to read that, I thought about leaving that off, but yeah, I mean that's how it was written. There was a post, and I can't even cite the source. Sometimes I'm busy, and I'm like, oh, that's cool, cut and paste, and
If it,
um,
if you posted it, send Mike an email so he can give you credit for it. How about that?
yes, exactly. And then the news has been saying this. I saw this somewhere else just today. 76 days to remove 50,000 tons of wreckage. So when you were talking about all the people and all the stats that I just ran through, so this is interesting because you never know how things reach people, right? So we have the camera, and um, and we had some problems with the camera, so people donated money like crazy to Stream Time Live, who runs and owns the camera, owns the footage, and all that stuff. I just helped. And so they got so much money that they bought a brand new 4K camera, and I
Hmm.
mean it's incredible. Especially at nighttime, it's amazing. But so there's people from all over the world watching this thing. So this guy from Europe, I think he was from Germany, decided to do a spreadsheet with columns and colors and types of boats or vehicles, and the name of each one with a link to like the marine traffic like website.
Wow.
Yeah, just just as a hobby, just I did post it to the group once, and you know how the group is. It's buried
For
somewhere.
sure.
But if you want to see it sometime, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And then, so I don't know if everyone's been following the website keybridgeresponse2024.com, and that's where you could go to get the official updates. And you know, people were like, "Well, what's happening? What's going on? What's the latest?" And you can always go there
Mm-hmm.
instead of hearsay or what Joe, Bob, Bill, or Fred said. You know, you can go to this website and it's there, and it's still there, and they have all the updates from number one. So this is part of the last update, and I wanted to read this as it's written. Since March 26th, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and U.S. Navy Supervisor of Salvage and Diving worked to clear the Key Bridge wreckage and move the MV Dolly from the Federal Channel. Following the removal of wreckage from the 50-foot mud line, the United Command performed a survey of the Federal Channel June 10th and certified the riverbed as safe for transit. Now, here's what I think is the interesting part. Surveying and removal of steel at and below the 50-foot mud line will continue to ensure future dredging operations are not impacted. So, and then I want to show you a picture of that. So, get this. This is from today.
Wow.
So, right. And so, in no way am I saying I'm not a salvage guy, I'm not a dredge guy. I have a 26-foot boat. That's as close as I get. I mean, and I'm a social media geek for ships. But I kind of thought that they would say it's all gone, and then they would open it. But they surveyed it. They said it's good down to 50 feet. Let's go ahead and open it. And then right here, surveying and removal of steel at or below the 50-foot mud line will continue to ensure future dredging operations are not impacted. And I can't stand it when people talk so fast you can't hear them. But what I'm trying, but since I already said that, and what I think that means is the normal equipment that they use for winter maintenance dredging, which happens every once or every year or two. I don't think is equipped to pick up. I mean, look at this is the Gus. Remember that giant jaw picture, that yellow jaw, and there was that guy standing in the middle, and this thing was like 30 and 40 foot tall. That's what you're looking at in this picture, holding up that kind of angled piece
Still
that
a
you see
significant
that.
piece of, yeah.
Right. So this was just from today they pulled this up. So I
So while the channel is open, it's
yes.
clear. It's clear
Yes.
the 50 foot.
Mm-hmm.
That riverbed still goes even deeper in certain places, and you're going to have even more, bridge material that still needs to come out of there. It's not 100% cleared out.
Right. And I think um, one way that Colonel Chasen said was, you know, there's stuff below the mud line. And so I don't know if they're using some kind of magnetometer or what
Not
I don't
sure.
know
Yeah.
how, but yeah, because we talked about it, I think last week. You know, so you're down there and you're picking things up, right? And so when you're done with that, you can see some of these like little high points. Like when you pick up mud, you know, it just doesn't go back down flat. You know, you might pick up a big scoop and it leaves a hole, and the holes have ridges on the side, and then they've got to make sure that there's no metal there. And I think they drag, because they've said drag a barge, and I don't know if they mean they're really dragging a barge or whether they're dragging a barge and then it has like something on the bottom that they're
Yeah.
pulling. Um, and then so they can see it flatten out with the next survey, and then they can say, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So next thing I want to talk about is got a Domino Sugar update. So some of you who are familiar with me and the Facebook group know that we've done several tours there, and ever since the sugar shed burnt down, um, there haven't been any tours made available to us. Um, and so I before I was fascinated by ships. I'm always fascinated by, you know, building things and how things get built and when they get built. And so let me go to one of our next photos. So here is a drone photo. Thanks to our friends at Cruising Brigadoon Charters
Mm.
downtown. Um, and so you can kind of see where the arrows are pointing. Those are actually 20-foot high, like 2 and 3 foot cement walls that function as, the the bottom or the foundation for the walls of the new sugar shed. Okay.
That's in the same place as the old shed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty
All right.
much. And when we went on the tour, you can kind of see the old footprint, and you can kind of see and I think the new footprint is a little smaller,
Okay.
but they can fit more sugar in it because they've got these 20-foot walls on the side, so they can stack up the sugar higher. I don't think the old one was designed. I think like the cone like if this was the edge of the
Right.
facility. The cone, they couldn't stack it up the side, high like they can now when this
I,
is finished.
I remember being in that shed on a tour, but obviously before it burnt down, and
Right,
it reminded me like one of the salt sheds that you see on the side of the highway.
right,
But the walls were much lower to the ground, and then the roof went up from that point. So
right. But
if they're
wasn't it
starting,
surreal? Like you're standing in sugar,
yeah,
and like I've got my boots on, and I'm standing in sugar, and my brain tells me it's snow because I'm looking down. I'm like, that looks like snow, but it's sugar. It was kind of surreal.
yeah. They also told us in that room, like, don't taste any of it because it's raw
Oh,
sugar, which is
yeah.
it hasn't been processed for the body to be able to eat it. So I thought that was interesting.
Right, right. Yeah. I forget how many processes it goes through. It's over a dozen processes to clean it and get the impurities out. So let me show you a couple more shots. So here's another. Now this one I did chose not to put any arrows on it because let's go back, right? So you can see where the walls are,
Right.
and let's go back. Ooh, let's go. Oh, okay, I went too far. Anyway, so but on this one from the water, you can see this shot, and you can see the structure going up
Yeah, that is much taller.
on the left, the
Hmm.
left arrow, and the right arrow is like the top of the
Hmm.
wall that the structure is being built on top of. So thanks a lot to Cruising Brigadoon Charters downtown for sharing those pictures with us.
That was cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, you got some updates on that. That was really cool about Domino Sugar. I think that's really cool that we've got that. I mean, I know it's a company, but it's a resource also of everything that we do in Baltimore. It's an icon, and be able to watch that process to go
Right.
through.
And when you see them, when you know that they've been here since 1921, and you know that they're the biggest maritime employer that still uses ships, that's the closest to the inner harbor, right? And we've got this iconic sign, and so they're so dedicated to us here in the city. And with good reason, we've
Right,
got a
right,
good labor force, and you can get the
absolutely.
sugar, it comes right. But how many stories have we heard about companies who something gets inconvenient and they're gone?
Yeah,
So I appreciate it. I don't even know. I mean, I really don't know anybody personally that works there, but I appreciate them sticking around.
sure.
Um, and then the sugar shed burns down, and they have to totally redo the way they bring sugar in, and they had to um, clear out some areas in their factory that they had used for different things, which was the old internal sugar shed, which isn't
Hmm.
even. I think it doesn't even hold 20% of what this thing now holds, right? And they had to find another way to get sugar in because they can't store it. So you know, and then the Key Bridge goes down, and they're still dedicated to us. So I just think it's important to highlight.
Absolutely.
So they're rebuilding and making themselves better for the future, and so I just think that's so cool, to be
All
honest.
right, cool. You got some updates on the bridge rebuild and RFP?
Right. And I just wanted to read through some of this stuff. We've talked about the RFP. Some people, if you're in business or you've been at a place that, does proposals, then maybe you know what RFP means. Uh, so RFP, request for proposal, or request for proposals. So it's a formal asking of companies to say, hey, send us a proposal of how you would build this bridge, or why can you build this bridge, or why you're qualified to build this bridge. So let me just read through this really quick. The Maryland Transit Authority, MDTA, has invited proposals for rebuilding the Francis Scott Key Bridge and reconnecting I-895 Baltimore Beltway. Here are the key milestone dates for the project. So proposals due June 24th. So it was actually May 31st when they put out the RFP, right? I think it was May 31st. And so they've got till the 24th to reply with their proposals. Project team selection mid to late summer.
All right,
So,
so I'm looking at our notes here about this, and when as I was reading it, as you were saying it, mid to late summer. So what would we classify midsummer? Like the July 15th to 30th type time frame? This
that's
thing's going to
mid.
move fast.
Yeah.
If it was announced in May, end of May, and the proposals are due end of June, and they're going to be making selections end of July, this thing's moving quite along quite
Right.
quickly.
And it is interesting because in social media, you'll see somebody post, or they'll be, because everybody's excited that the port's open, and you see these people. Well, why aren't you building that bridge yet? I mean, come on, and we'll get into it in a couple minutes, right? Because I
Sure.
think you've done some research for us.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
mean, this is an accelerated process,
Mhm.
an accelerated process, a standardized accelerated process, right? But an accelerated process nonetheless. And then, so project team selection mid to late summer of this year, so in a few months, and then project completion the end of 28. So I mean, wow, I don't. So you're talking about by the time they start, maybe less than 4 years. Wow.
I,
Um, so,
I wonder if that's a conservative date also.
oh, that's well. They did say that they are adding incentives for getting done sooner.
Yeah.
So maybe that is. And so, but this is the point I wanted to bring up, and this is what I couldn't remember last week. This verbiage. The project follows a two-phase progressive design build (PDP) progressive design build process, emphasizing collaboration and flexibility. So, you want to talk about the
Yeah.
progressive design build process, because I really don't know what that means exactly.
So so typically when there are big projects, and it's not, I'm
Hmm.
not looking at just bridge type
Hmm.
building processes. This is anything that require that's large ticket items. There is something that has to be built from scratch. You typically go through a design process first, where you design everything from start to finish, and
Right.
you map out the supply chain, and and all of your timing milestones and everything. This project comes out with a design and blueprints and things like that. And once that's completed, then there is a price or a cost. I'm sorry, there's a cost that's determined and a price that is communicated based on that. And then you go into the next phase with a fully designed project for somebody to go and implement. And
Right. So you're
so
hiring the designer
to go design what you want, you
architect,
pay
whatever.
them, and then you go and you hire the contractor to actually go do the work. Um, a progressive design build process actually marries all of those processes together all at once. And
Hmm.
so um, let me read this definition, and then I'll explain it. It's a
Mhm.
project delivery model that combines traditional architectural design processes in phases. And in the model, there's a purposeful collaboration between a project owner, and in this case, that's the state or
Which
Department of
Maryland
Transportation.
Transportation Authority, I think,
Correct.
owns the.
They're the responsible party, and then the
Mhm.
contractor who's building the project. And in this case, we don't know who the contractor is yet, but once
Right.
that is a once they finish in that RFP process, they will know who that is, and the engineer team, design team. So it I kind of equate this as how the cliche joke of we're building the plane as we're flying it, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because you can't build a plane while you're flying. I understand this really is building the plane while we're flying it. We are designing the bridge and building the bridge at the same all one swoop time. Okay.
Hmm.
So what so this model is a little bit different than traditional models because you don't complete the design phase before you start the construction phase. You're doing it
Mhm.
all together. Now,
Mhm.
somebody might go and say, "Well, wait a second here. Why? How can we design it without? How can we build it while we're designing it?" Well, look specifically at what's happening with the Key Bridge. We've got an old existing structure still there that's got to be completely torn down. We've got to go build the new one. We got to design this thing. There's going to be a lot of moving parts just the way that the project exists. So
Okay.
you have to work on all of this together because that same company who's going to be building the bridge is going to be tearing the old bridge down at the same time. Or maybe they have subcontractors, but they're going to be
They
the
might have a
responsible
sub.
party.
Yeah.
Um, the benefits here for doing this is that all parties are involved from the very beginning.
Hmm.
And so the design team can listen to the owner or the project, the project owner and the construction company, the contractor, to build the best design possible and that removes a lot of the changes that typically take place in the traditional process.
Hmm.
So when in the traditional process where you've made the design and then you go and implement it, that contractor had no say as to what's going on in the design. And something may have been designed that may not quite work with the way the actual project
Hmm.
needs to be constructed. So this helps eliminate or reduce a lot of those inefficiencies. Um, you typically get projects sped up faster because you have everybody talking and collaborating at the same time, and they're implementing those things faster.
Hmm.
Um,
Okay.
the cons, the kind of the drawbacks here are that the project owner has to have much more investment in this to make it work. Meaning they have to spend a significant amount of time making sure that the design process is being designed properly at the same time that the construction process is going on.
Hmm.
Um, so that can be very challenging. I feel like that because of where this particular project is being managed out of, that the state's going to have the right people with the right amount of time to be able to handle that. So I kind of feel good about that part of it.
Can I
The other pro-
interrupt just?
yeah,
And maybe not really synonymous, but so we had a deck built, right?
hmm
And when we did, we had it engineered because we were going to build it differently, right?
okay,
We had like three posts, and there was a post in the middle, and we wanted a post taken out. So we got an engineer in, And I mean, the guy knew everything off the top of
Mhm.
his head, right? And he's like on a napkin. He's like, okay, this many feet and over this many, you know. And he's like, oh yeah, we can do this span and we can put a post here, and and he had a way that he wanted to do it. He wanted to take the vertical post um, and basically notch it, right, and then
Mhm.
sit the horizontal posts on this notch, like here and
Okay.
here, if you
Mhm.
will, right? And then bolt through. And then we wind up changing decking subcontractors. And that contractor was like, I really don't like that. How about if
Mm.
we just cut the top of the vertical right off, set this thing right on top of it, and then put brackets on the front and the back of it. And that's the way he wanted to do it. And we got a revision from the engineer, and off we went. And I just thought maybe that's an example of
That, that would be
designed by somebody else. The new guy comes in, I don't kind of like that. And,
that is a very good basic example of what we're talking about here. Is that you've got
Mhm.
that input by the contractor who has the operational knowledge, is going to be able to provide that operational feedback into the design, and then the designer can then also make sure that, hey, look, I see what you're wanting to do, but you've got to do it this way with a particular design in order to achieve that. So
Mhm.
it's really that cross collaboration that, and absolutely, then it gives you the ability to go and make those redesign changes long before any investment is made, and reduces those overrun costs and things like that.
All right, cool.
Um,
Because I think people have heard this progressive design build, but at this point, it's like a buzzword, right? Yeah,
right.
you keep hearing it. Well, what does that mean? So I wanted to try to cover that.
Sure. The other drawback, really quick, is that one of the drawbacks is that the selection of the partners happens long before a, a final price is even determined, and so
Right.
you typically in maybe government procurement contracting, there's certain rules that you have to follow for
Yes.
bids and those types of things. But in this particular situation, because it's um, you have the federal funding that's backing it. And I'm not in no way, shape, or form am I saying, hey, let's just go and just spend because we've got a big
Right.
pot of money sitting there.
Right. Right.
It needs to be fiscally sound. Um,
Right.
but it's very difficult to pick somebody without having some type of monetary figure to do any comparisons or anything with. So
Right.
the part of
We.
this process, it has that validation or check on who those parties are, so that you can go ahead and start all these processes and all together in conjunction with the related cost associated with the design.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
So I hope that helps, helps with some of the understanding of what this progressive design
Yeah.
build
I. I,
model is.
I think so. I appreciate you digging into that for us because I didn't. I really wasn't sure. I know it meant sped up, but I really didn't.
And it's not something that's specific to bridge construction. You can see progressive design build models all through all major types of very large projects in
Hmm.
all different sectors.
Okay. Okay. So, something else that we had on the list, and I wanted to cover this week, but we just couldn't get to it. Kind of on the tail end of Reverend Josh, who was with us from BISC, Baltimore International Seafair Center,
That was
right?
really that was really fun
That
to have
was,
them all. Yeah.
and I think uh, incredibly eye opening to me and a whole bunch of other people about what a seafarer's life is like
Mm-hmm.
and what their family life is like and how they have to handle their money and all that was extremely eye opening.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yes.
but but what I was getting to was when we had the 8 ships that were stuck, there was a ship called the JY River, and it was stuck. It was at Curtis Bay, a coal ship, and it was the last one to leave. Now, the tough thing is that this was a ship of folks who were Chinese, and the American government says you can't get off the ship with a visa or anything. You're not getting off the ship. And so Reverend Josh visited the ship, did a lot to help them, and he took some cool pictures. But I couldn't get them ready for tonight. So next week is the teaser. Tune in next week, and we'll go over that story with some really cool photos of the crew and some of the things they talked about and did for them. So
sounds good.
Yeah. So Fleet Week just started. Yesterday. Fleet Week just started yesterday. And I wanted to kind of go over that. Did you prepare some stuff for that? Do you have?
Yeah. I've got some information on Fleet Week, specifically with some of the different vessels and locations that the general public can go and tour and visit and look. So I'm gonna go a quick run view of all the different places.
Rapid fire.
Yeah, rapid fire on this. This will be our rapid fire segment. I don't. Reminds me of when I was growing up. There was the commercial for the micro machines, the little tiny cars, and the guy.
Oh my god!
The guy had, was a fast talker announcer. And he's
right.
I'm not going to be that
the
fast.
Auctioneer, I can't. Can't do it.
So I'll break it down based on the locations at the Inner Harbor on the west wall. So this is if you're looking, I guess, north into the city, it's right up there against was it Light Street that's right there. The U.S. Marionette is docked there, and you can go. They've got some tours set up for it. It is a Freedom class littoral combat ship for the United States Navy, and it is kind of a fun fact. It's the first commissioned ship named after Marionette, Wisconsin. Also at the Inner Harbor, the U.S. Naval Academy Yard Patrol Training Ship is out there. This is a yard patrol craft, which is used for training and research purposes. You can sometimes see them out in the right there off of Annapolis in the Severn River, and you can see the patrol crafts that are out there with the midshipmen. They provide kind of a realistic at sea training and navigation and seamanship for the midshipmen out there at the Naval Academy. So a bunch of naval boats without guns on them, and but the purpose behind it is to give them kind of a work based learning or experiential learning in that. So so you can tour one of those boats at Pier 1. Pier 1 has got the USS Constellation. It is based here, but you can still get a tour of it. It is a sloop of warship with a single gun deck carrying about up to 18 guns.
Now, and people got confused, right? Because the frigate has 2 rows of guns, right?
Right.
And so there was that's a whole podcast in
Correct.
itself, and we're gonna.
Well, yeah, we'll cover that one. Yeah,
and so Pier 1 is where the Constellation
normally is.
Okay, so people know what Pier 1 is.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that's where it normally is. This is the last sail-only warship designed and built by the United States Navy and entered into service in 1855.
That is a cool fact that I don't remember to bring up when I talk about it.
Yeah, it's got some importance, and it's really cool that it's still around.
Yeah.
The skipjack Sigsbee is that is a Chesapeake Bay skipjack. This particular one was built in 1901. It's owned by Living Classrooms, and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's used as a classroom vessel. Also, there is the buyboat Mildred Bell. This was also pretty interesting to learn about. It's a local Chesapeake Bay vessel used to haul cargo and dredged crabs and dragnets, and they call them buy boats because they would go and go up to the fishing vessels, the working vessels that are out in the bay, and they would purchase fish and oysters and crabs directly from those ships, and then they would take them back to and sell them. it allowed those working ships to stay out longer and get more products out of the bay. And this is also a living classrooms vessel.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know why. I just think the design of those things is, I don't know, they're just so cool looking.
They are cool looking with the
They
little
are very unique. Very unique.
cab, the little cab that's in it, and the way that it's designed. It's really cool.
Hmm.
At Pier 3, the USS Torsk is there. That's the Tinch class submarine built for United States Navy in World War II. This particular one was launched in 1944.
Hmm.
The light ship Chesapeake is also there, so that's the big red ship that has the word Chesapeake written on the side of it. It
Hmm.
is a floating lighthouse to aid in bay navigation. And starting in the 1930s, it was constructed to survive really rough weather. And it marked at various times in its tenure, it marked the mouth of the Chesapeake and the Delaware bays for commercial vessels. And then, so now
Hmm.
it's owned by the U.S. Park Service, and the Park Service has loaned it to Baltimore, and that's the reason why it is here.
Oh,
Yeah, that was, I didn't realize that it's not ours. It's really the Park Services, and we're just borrowing it.
that's
But it's
interesting.
still cool.
Yeah.
Um, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, the MV Catlet. This is a
Hmm.
survey vessel
Hmm.
for surveying the channels in the port of Baltimore. So this is a vessel that's based in our area,
And
and
she
also
has
the
been working her
yeah,
butt off.
absolutely. So it must be nice to be able to tie up at a pier for a couple of days and give tours.
Yeah.
The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers MV Reynolds is also there.
Hmm.
This is a debris collection vessel. When I read this, I
Right.
was like, "Oh, picks up trash. Okay, yeah, sure." But this thing
Okay.
is has a hydraulic front end loader and a mesh basket, and it collects trash in the harbor. It's
Yeah.
pretty interesting vessel. At Pier 5, you have the Coast Guard cutter WHEC 37.
Hmm.
This is a Treasury class Coast Guard cutter built in the 1930s, and its purpose is for law enforcement missions and search and rescue and maritime patrol.
Hmm.
Also, at Pier 5 is not a vessel, but you can go tour this. The Seven
Oh,
Foot Knoll Lighthouse is one of these stops for Fleet Week.
right.
So
Right.
while this isn't, it's not going, it sure does serve an important purpose in our Bay history.
Yes.
It's the oldest screw pile lighthouse in Maryland, and these are isolated stations that were used for general aid for ship navigation.
Hmm.
This particular one was built in 1855 and remained in operation until 1948, but not in the location that it's at today.
Right.
It was originally at 7 Foot Knoll, and in 1988 it was moved to its current location and restored, and that's what we have today. Now
Right.
it's used.
So if you're real quickly, if you're a ship geek like us, and if you looked at the NOAA charts, um, so the ships come out like by the Key Bridge, and then they make a turn to the north, right? And so
Mhm,
they're going north, and then that channel just kind of keeps going.
mhm,
And if they follow that channel, it goes all the way across the bay to the Tolchester Channel, and then goes up to the C&D Canal.
mhm,
But at some point, you can make a turn to starboard going south, right? And
mhm,
that's the channel that is the Craig Hill,
mhm.
because
Yes.
you're in Brewerton and you make a turn to starboard into Craig Hill, and that's the one that takes you down to the Bay Bridge. And so there's a triangle in there, and that's where 7 Foot Knoll was, kind of in somewhere in that triangle. And way long ago, there were issues with, when there were ships coming and going in both channels, and it could get pretty rough
Mhm,
around that lighthouse. And then just kind of generically, um, we have had a couple of accidents here lately, but it's not like it used to be, right? Because light people that worked at a lighthouse were also rescue people, because ships were more routinely, having accidents, and then they would actually get in a boat and go rescue people that had like crashed on rocks. I mean, we don't do that anymore, but
right. With
I
with
think
with
people forget about that part of it.
with all of the advancements in technology and everything we have today,
Mm-hmm.
search and rescue and navigation is a lot easier. I
Yes.
think it's fair to say that, but that was the effort that it took for during those times. We did have those processes in place to be able to help with navigation and search and rescue.
Mm-hmm.
Down at Fells Point, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter James Rankin is tied up there. You can go on a tour of it. We just learned about that here just
Yeah.
recently with the Francis Scott Key buoy that was placed out, and
Yeah.
that's the vessel that
Oh,
handles those
since
transactions.
you're talking about the buoy, my beautiful wife Wendy brought this home, and I was like, "Oh, check this out." So this is Upper Bay Boating Magazine, the
Okay.
Francis Scott Key issue, May
Oh,
2024. Now,
oh, okay.
this is an old picture, but it's a really cool picture.
That is a cool picture. All right, go pick up your boating magazine then.
Yeah, your Upper
Upper Bay
Bay
Boating
Boating
Magazine.
Magazine, May 2024. Kind of
Right.
cool.
I'll have to go get a copy of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. And then finally at the North Locust Point Marine Terminal, you
Oh
got the
wow.
USS Fort Lauderdale. That's a San Antonio class amphibious transport dock. So this is a ship that's used, a warship. It's used
Mm-hmm.
to embark, transport, and land elements of a landing force in wartime theaters. So you going up into a beach or a place that does not have a pier or
Mm-hmm.
landable area. This vessel will help with aid with that. And then the
Mm-hmm.
USS Gonzales is an Arleigh Burke class destroyer for the United States Navy. So
Yeah.
those are quick run through of what the vessels are. There's quite a number of vessels. Some are
Mm-hmm.
traditional Navy type, what you would think, and some of them are not. And so it would be really cool to go and see all the different types. All of these
Yes.
equate to different jobs and careers that are out
Mm-hmm.
within the maritime industry. So it'd be really cool to go out and explore some of this.
And I think the transport dock ship is they have two hangars. They can take two helicopters in at the same time.
Hmm.
Um, and then when you look at the back of the ship, unless you're a naval aviator, this is going to be really cool. You look at the back of the ship, you can see like the white lines, like where like as you're flying in and you want to line up, and the lights that they use, like similar to an aircraft carrier, I guess, but no, for a helicopter, there's a big white stripe that goes up the back of the ship in two different places because they want them to come in on different angles, and it's just kind of cool to see that.
Mhm.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So the Gonzales, an Arleigh Burke destroyer, right? They can engage 200 targets at once.
Wow.
Is that unbelievable?
It's impressive.
200. I know. But here's a little interesting thing. So the Gonzales came in today. It was the last of the three military ships that are coming in from out of town. Last one to come in for today. And we had it on the live stream and we filed it in. And it came in and kind of, went out of range. And we noticed it's anchored. So right off of Seagirt, right, there's a temporary anchorage.
Mhm.
And I say temporary because I think it's the Coast Guard. It's limited to 24 hours.
Okay.
So you can come in there. You might need some supplies or whatever, or
Bunkering or something. Mhm.
right, right. Or a lot of times, what Console, so one of the two coal piers, Console, the one in Canton, right across from Fort McHenry, kind of right next to Rucker Terminals, um, they have been bringing in ships early so they can get a quick turnaround. So the Gonzales comes in and we realize it's anchored. And about an hour later, it's heading out again. And so I haven't heard the official story about,
Mhm.
but it's in the anchorage. It's in the Annapolis anchorage now.
Okay.
And so I never did hear about what's up with that. But yeah,
Okay.
it's supposed to be there. Still supposed to be there.
Go out this weekend and check out Fleet Week. You can go
Mm-hmm.
to, I believe the website is mdfleetweek.org, and that's a point through to the state site.
Oh yeah,
I'll,
mdfleetweek.org.
yeah, I'll put the you'll when this thing gets brought out, you'll see the
Right.
URL right there. So
That was cool when you added that across the bottom. That yeah,
fancy,
that was cool.
fancy technology stuff where I learn something each time. So
Right, right, right. So I know you're not on the Facebook group a lot, but at one point we did come up with like a list of books, like a recommended book list.
okay,
You know,
oh, I guess I need to spend more
mostly
time in the. I need to spend more time in the group then.
well, and it's when you load a file, it creates a post, which is great. And then up the top, there's some tabs, and one of them is files. And then there's some cool. There's a story from former pilot Bill Band in there. There's
Oh,
a map of all the Ready Reserve ships in there. There's this list of books that we came up with. So on that, I wanted to ask you a question.
okay.
So related to, you know, because we have local businesses that supply all kinds of things that ships need, right? So when you want to read a book about lubricants, where do you find that in the library? Any idea? A book about lubricants. Kipp, the
Um,
non-friction section.
okay. I cannot believe I didn't.
Come on, Father's Day's coming. I gotta get in a dad joke.
I I didn't. I was man. I was. You got. I cannot believe that I got gotten because I am the king of dad jokes, and
Are
I was
you?
like,
All right. Well,
is it engineering? Is it like oil based? Is he talking about card catalog Dewey Decimal System, or do I look?
the
What's
non-friction section, my friend.
non?
There you go. Now you got a new one.
I,
Father's Day's coming up in a couple
I
of days. I gotta get a dad joke in.
I am embarrassed that I didn't. Oh, I'm not gonna hear the end of that one. Oh, all right, that's fine. I give you the point on
All
that.
right. Okay. I get 1 point. I get one attaboy. Just remember. Anyway.
All good.
What was the old adage? One oh crap cancels two attaboys or something.
Oh, can I finish up? Can I finish up with one thing? So I'd like to share something here that
Mm-hmm.
Blaze from Vane Brothers
Mm-hmm.
is wanting to promote. It is
Oh, there we
a
go.
hiring event,
Mm-hmm.
and that they are in so Vane Brothers their headquarters is here in Baltimore, but they've got um, representation in a number of different ports around the U.S.
Yes, they
Uh,
do.
but but not only so not only in the other ports, but also here in Baltimore, they've got some hiring needs. So if you're interested in the maritime industry um, and you happen to have the credentials or the qualifications for a number of these positions,
Mm-hmm.
it may be something of interest for you to go and talk to them or go to. And visit their website. Their website has quite a number of positions and all of the job responsibilities that they're hiring for. I know
Mm-hmm.
that when I looked at it today on the Baltimore page, there's about 4 or 5 different positions they're hiring for, but they're going to have a hiring event on their campus on their on their terminal
Mm-hmm.
on July the 24th. And so they've got a number of positions that they're hiring for. If this is of interest, their website is listed here. Please go there and look at what those various positions are. Some of them are over the water, or on the water on vessels, and
Mm-hmm.
some of those positions are in their corporate office doing some of the office related transactions to what they're doing out in the bay. So
Cool.
I told Blaze that I would make sure that I shared this with this group on the podcast. So if that's something of interest to you, make sure that you look into that and feel free to attend. So
Yeah, very cool. Because I think maritime industry is one of those things where, um, and I might be speaking out of turn, but you'll have more opportunities if you're willing to go where the opportunities are, right? And sometimes that might not mean the Chesapeake or Baltimore.
there are job opportunities up and down the bay, correct? But there are
Right.
lots of opportunities elsewhere, and so if you are willing to travel, that does open up a lot of opportunities. That is correct.
Like one example, one of our pilots, one of our bay pilots, was actually working super tankers in Alaska previous to being a pilot here. So, we, and then wound up basically being able to come back home
Sure.
after being on the other side of the country. Doing some cool stuff too. But just another example of you might
Sure.
have to go where the work is, kind of
As
thing.
I do hear a lot about job opportunities and companies who are hiring for positions and things. As I
Mhm.
hear those things, and I share those with my students because they're the ones that are going through the related coursework and trying to get some of these jobs. But I'll
Mhm.
also go and promote that at large so that anybody who really is looking for industry related opportunities may help them to go and explore this and see if that's something that they want to go do.
Right, right, right. As we close, just wanted to go over the socials. Um, so the group, Baltimore and Chesapeake Bay Ship Watchers, is we're on Instagram, and from a sports broadcaster, Amy Lawrence says Twix.
Oh yeah.
So she just calls it Twix from now on. So I'm going to start doing that. So not Twitter, not X. We're going to just call it Twix.
Twix.
So Twix, Instagram, and YouTube, where you'll find this podcast. It's Balto Ches, one word. Um, and there's also the website, BaltimoreShipWatchers.com. There are ship schedules there, cruise ship schedules, um, swag. We have some clothing and coffee cups and stuff for sale. Let's see what else is on there. Oh, the link to the live stream camera is on there.
Mhm.
So lots of good
We,
information.
we also, if you're like me and I'm dragging myself through the harbor tunnel twice a day for work,
Hmm.
and if you want to catch this podcast on the audio platforms, you can also get it on Spotify and the Apple Podcast platforms.
Cool, cool. All right. So you remember Lethal Weapon
Okay, yeah.
when when he finds Danny Glover and the bomb, and he's in the bathroom, and he's like, "Okay, is it okay? Let's count. Let's count the three. Are we going on? Is it like 1, 2, and then we go, or is it 1, 2, 3, and then remember?
Is it 1, 2, 3, go?
Yeah, are we gonna do that? 1, 2, 3, go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy ship
Happy
watching.
ship
Oh, come
watching.
on,
But you said go. I thought we were going to go.
we'll get
Happy
it.
ship
We'll get it.
watching, everybody.
All right, happy ship watching.